Forbidden Desires by Tembeka Angel Gononda.
Chapter 1. The waves crashed rhythmically against the rocks below the Daniels estate, sprawling mansion perched on the cliffs of Clifton. Inside, the world was still except for Bianca. She stood before the mirror in her bridal gown, flawless, and frozen, her face unreadable. The diamond necklace around her neck caught the sunlight like a noose made of glass. She had made her decision weeks ago. This marriage wasn't for love. It was revenge. "You look beautiful," came Fiona's voice from the doorway. Always impeccably dressed, her mother leaned against the frame, arms folded, eyes full of control. Bianca didn't turn. "Of course I do. You trained me for this moment." Fiona smirked, unfazed by the venom in her daughter's voice. "All right. He's a good man. He's wealthy, well respected. You'll want for nothing." Bianca finally turned, her gaze piercing. Except a heart that beats for him. Tension between them was sharp, as always. Years ago, Fiona had been Ari Daniels' lover, a glamorous affair cut short by her ambition and greed. Bianca had grown up watching her mother toy with powerful men, only to discard them like yesterday's perfume. But Ari had been different. He'd cared. Now he is marrying Bianca. It was poetic, really. Bianca would become what Fiona could never be, Mrs. Daniels. But she wasn't doing it for the title. She wanted to destroy the illusion Fiona built, piece by piece. The ceremony was held in the estate's rose garden. Everything was perfect. Classical music floated through the summer air, and Cape Town's elite sat in polished rows. Bianca walked down the aisle like a goddess descending from Olympus gold, poised, untouchable. Ari waited at the altar. Tall, silver-haired, his expression gentle. He looked at her with soft pride. In that moment, Bianca almost faltered. There was kindness in his eyes. Guilt pinched at her ribs like a secret trying to claw out. But she kept walking. Vows were exchanged. Lips brushed. Applause followed. And just like that, Bianca Daniels was born. Later, the sun dipped into the Atlantic and lanterns flickered across the garden. Kaka stood alone on the terrace, a glass of champagne in hand. Below, laughter and toasts echoed into the night. She felt none of it. Then she sensed him. She turned and there he was. Brandon Daniels, taller than she remembered, with sharper cheekbones and a casual arrogance that clung to him like cologne. He leaned against the railing, nursing a whiskey, his dark eyes scanning her from head to toe without shame. "You really did it," he said. Bianca raised an eyebrow. "You sound surprised." "I am. Didn't think you were the marrying type. And yet, here we are." He chuckled, taking a sip. "Aunt Bianca, that'll take some getting used to." She looked at him at the way he mocked the moment, how he saw right through the ceremony, the rings, the lies. And something flickered between them, sharp and dangerous. "I'm nobody's aunt," she replied coolly. "Least of all yours." Brandon's smile deepened, and for a second, the world stilled again. This was the real danger, not the marriage, but him. Chapter 2. Brandon hadn't planned to return to Cape Town. He had built a life for himself abroad, nightclubs in London, surfboards in Bali, flings in Barcelona. But when Ari sent that email, short, formal, inviting him to a family moment of great importance, he knew something was different. He never imagined Ari would marry again. Definitely not her. Bianca. She was no longer the quiet teenager he once teased at family functions. She was stunning, nice, and fire wrapped in silk. The kind of woman who made men forget their morals. And now, legally, his aunt, Brandon, smirked at the thought as he entered the estate's private lounge the next morning. Sunlight spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He poured himself a black coffee and collapsed into a velvet chair. Across the room, Bianca sat in silence, thumbing through a book she wasn't reading. Their eyes met. No honeymoon? He asked, voice lazy. Bianca didn't look up from her page. Not everyone's in love with the idea of sipping champagne in Santorini. Oh, with their new husband, he added bluntly. She closed the book. You're awfully bold for a guest. Okay. Family, which makes this all ... fascinating. She stood, slow and graceful, walking to the window. What exactly is so fascinating, Brandon? He took a sip of coffee, watching her closely. That Ari Daniels, the king of logic and control, just married a woman half his age. Hey, and that woman is now living in the house he once shared with his late wife. In his mind, this is a second chance. But I wonder what it is for you. She turned to face him, her tone even but biting. Tate, and what exactly do you think it is? Revenge, maybe, power, or boredom? Projection is a dangerous game, she replied, moving closer. You think because you can see through people that you're immune to being seen? He didn't flinch, just set down the cup and stood. Now they were toe to toe. I know a performance when I see one, he said, and yours, flawless. But that look in your eyes last night wasn't love, Bianca. It was ... war. She should have walked away. Instead, she stepped closer. You know nothing about me. I know enough, he whispered, eyes drifting to her lips. You don't belong here. And you're already wondering what it would take to burn it all down. Silence hung between them. The air grew thick. Every breath was heavy, electric. Then, footsteps echoed in the hallway, and the tension shattered like glass. Ari entered, smiling, unaware. Ah, you two are bonding already. Good, Bianca. I thought we'd take a walk along the cliffs after breakfast. Bianca turned away quickly, fixing her face into something serene. Of course, darling. Brandon gave her a mocking nod and walked past, brushing her shoulder with the slightest touch, one that lingered longer than it should have, as he disappeared down the hall. Bianca exhaled. She had married a man she didn't love to ruin the woman she hated, but she hadn't counted on him, and that terrified her more than anything. Chapter 3. The Daniels family brunch was a tradition Ari insisted on, lavish, to perfect, and utterly performative. White linens, imported pastries, and fresh fruit carved into roses. Bianca sat at the long mahogany table in a cream silk dress, her smile as polished as the silver cutlery, but beneath the surface, she was unraveling. Across from her, Brandon lounged with the ease of someone who didn't belong, but made everyone else feel like they didn't, dressed in a black linen shirt, sunglasses pushed back into his dark curls. He poured syrup over his croissant like he was in no rush to pretend. Fiona sat beside Bianca, radiating disapproval. She hadn't spoken much since the wedding, but Bianca could feel her mother watching, measuring, waiting for a crack to show. So, got Brandon, Fiona finally said, voice syrupy but sharp. How long are you gracing us with your presence? God Brandon smirked. Long enough to enjoy the drama I walked into. Aha, re-chuckled, completely missing the subtext. You know Brandon, he always says things to stir the pot. Bianca sipped her mimosa, her gaze steady. Maybe some pots need stirring. Fiona cut a glance at her daughter, and some need scrubbing clean. Brandon leaned back, folding his arms. Missed this? Really? Cape Town's soap opera royalty, live at brunch. Attention was now thick enough to slice. Bianca stood, her chair scraping softly. Excuse me, I need air. She walked out to the garden, heels clicking against the tiled veranda. The ocean breeze greeted her like a secret. She needed space away from her mother's games, from Aries' kindness, from Brandon's eyes. But he followed, running already. Brandon asked, leaning against a column. Bianca turned sharply. What exactly do you want? I want to know what you're hiding. She laughed bitterly. You think everyone's playing a game just because you are? No, he said. I think you're scared. You don't love Ari. That's obvious, but you married him anyway. And now you're trapped in a cage you built yourself. Bianca crossed her arms. Careful, Brandon. For someone who claims to see everything, you miss a lot. He stepped closer, then enlightened me. She hesitated, then, quietly, your uncle isn't as innocent as you think. That caught him. What's that supposed to mean? There are things I've learned, about his past, about his first wife. Brandon frowned. My aunt's death was an accident. Bianca tilted her head. Was it? He stared at her, eyes narrowing. You're playing with fire. She turned, walking back toward the house. No, Brandon. I am the fire. Inside, Fiona watched from the window, eyes narrowing. She saw the way Brandon looked at Bianca, not with judgment, but hunger. She saw the way Bianca stood, just close enough for the edge to blur. She had fought too long and too hard for her status to let a girl, even her own daughter, take everything. If Bianca wanted to play dangerous games, Fiona was more than ready. After all, she'd taught her everything she knew. Chapter 4. That evening, Bianca sat in Ari's private study, flipping through the pages of an old leather-bound photo album she had found in the bottom drawer of his desk. The photos were black and white at first, then color snapshots of a younger Ari, a glowing woman at his side, Kay, his late wife. They looked happy to happy. Bianca wasn't jealous, okay? She didn't want that kind of love. She wanted power control over her mother, over this family, over the legacy that once cast her in the shadows. But something about those pictures, something gnawed at her. The woman's eyes. There was a sadness in them, hidden behind pearls and expensive dresses. The same sadness Bianca often saw in her own reflection. The door creaked. She turned quickly, slamming the album shut. Brandon stood in the doorway, arms folded, lips curled into something between a smirk and a warning. I knocked, he said, twice. And yet, here you are, Bianca replied, standing. You've been avoiding me. I've been busy pretending to be a good wife. He stepped in slowly, glancing at the desk. What's that? Nothing. He raised an eyebrow. Then nothing looked like a photo album. She sighed, annoyed at herself for not hiding it faster. I was curious about Ari's past, about her, my aunt. Bianca nodded. Brandon single quotes. Expression darkened as he walked toward the window. She drowned. Everyone says it was an accident, but no one ever asks why she was swimming alone at night after an argument. Bianca's chest tightened. You knew? I was 15. Heard them fighting that night. He looked over his shoulder. You think Ari had something to do with it? She hesitated. I don't know. There's more to him than he. Let's on. He's calculated, measured. I feel like he's always watching, always one step ahead. Maybe he is, Brandon said. He married you, didn't he? Bianca looked away. Why are you really here, Brandon? He turned fully now, stepping close, because I can't stop thinking about you. And because I think you feel the same. Her heart thudded, but she refused to show it. This is dangerous. What part? He asked softly. The attraction or the truth were both trying to ignore. She hated him in that moment. Hated how he could cut through her walls. Hated how much she wanted to close the space between them. Before she could answer, the door opened again. Ari entered. Bianca stepped back instantly. Brandon didn't flinch. There you two are, Ari said warmly. I was hoping we could go over the foundation plans, Bianca. Of course, she said, quickly, just finishing up here. Brandon gave her one last look intense, unreadable, then slipped past Ari and out the door. Bianca followed her husband to the sitting room, her face calm, her hand steady, but inside, she was cracking, and the worst part was, she didn't know if it was guilt, desire, or fear that was breaking her.